they have to accept that I'm recording.
J'ai fait aujourd'hui, mais c'est comme pas beau.
Bien, ben, semblable au mien. J'ai fait hier.
And now we're going live on Facebook
Oh,
too.
sorry, we found out.
And Roxy.
Cette semaine, je m'en vais chez Pierre.
Yes.
Mr. Teacher.
Et là, et dedans l'école à Arbois.
We can talk about this. Accept it on this iPad. Oh, thanks. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You are second employee.
You're hired. We're hiring our whole staff right here.
Meeting is now live. Meeting is now live on Facebook.
Ouais, c'est tout.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our in-person and our on Facebook Live launch of Forever Changed. We have a number of on screen. We have 2 future authors and a few people who are yet to be in one of our books. So we're excited to have all of you here. We're excited for this book because the 19 authors that wrote in this book shared authentic stories about grief. Very different stories about different kinds of grief and empowering stories, stories that will bring healing to people. Not only to the people writing the books, but to the people reading the book. And that's always, for Bunny and I, that's always our hope with every book that we do, that it's going to bring healing to people. That when they read our stories, they will see the authentic, real life changing stuff that's in there. Because grief does forever change us. And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about in this book. It forever changes us, and we have a choice whether it's forever changing us for the good or forever changing us for the negative. It's our choice what grief does to us. It hurts. It's always going to hurt, but it can be life-changing and powerful. Part of the reason that I will share up front is why we're launching this book today is March 19th is my mother's birthday. And it's so exciting to launch this book today on her birthday because she was a very big catalyst to my healing. Part of what she did in her dying journey and in my grief journey was set me on a course for healing. And had I not gone through that life-changing healing during a time of grief, I wouldn't be standing in front of you today. Had Bunny and I not listened when the universe said we could start this company and we could do this, even though we knew no way how to do it, and we're still learning how to do it, we wouldn't have a table full of books that we have produced in our first year of business. It's incredible what can happen when you say yes to the universe. When you say yes to the universe, you don't have to know the how. You just have to say yes. The universe takes care of the how. You figure it out. In every single book that we have published, we've learned new things. We've met new people. We've learned how to do things we didn't know we could do. We've healed. We've watched our authors heal. And it's been so exciting and humbling all at the same time because you guys here and out there have trusted us with your words. And that's just powerful. That's just powerful. And sometimes I can't even catch my breath to realize this is my real life. This is really happening. Like, pinch me, because is this real? This is really happening. And we say all the time, thank you. Because without you guys, we could not do this. We'd have empty pages that two of us wrote a book in that people may or may not want to read. So to all of you, big giant heart thanks that today is because of you. It's not just because of us, it's because of you. And let's just pause for a moment and hold space for those people in our world right now that are grieving. Because each one of us who wrote in these books know somebody who's grieving, know somebody who's hurting. So for a moment, we just want to pause and hold space and send healing. Thank you. So we have some authors who want to share why they chose to write in this particular book. So we will ask first for our first person to come on up, and you stand either here or you can sit.
Well, that's where you're gonna be on
Yeah,
the internet,
right
so.
there.
Okay, well, hello, cousins, grandmother, and other people. My name is Emily. I am Anne's oldest daughter. I'm sure you all have met her and multiple of these things. So this is my second book and chapter. So I really honestly wasn't sure that I was going to write in this one at all. I was struggling to find what to write about. And it wasn't until I was dog sitting, watching Grey's Anatomy, where it hit me that, like, okay, if you've read my chapter, you've known that I quote Meredith Grey twice in it. The grief that she goes through is like unimaginable throughout the show. So many different kinds of grief, whether it was a person, her husband, jobs, friends, anything. So I just did a grief brain dump where I just said, you know what, this is how I feel about things. Totally random. I don't even know if it makes sense, but it's how I was feeling when I was writing it. I'm just gonna put it all out there. And the main part was normalizing that it's okay to like grieve a relationship, grieve the breakup, grieve what you thought your life would look like. And I learned to, you know, I may have lost that, but I've gained a new version of myself to go forward, and that it's okay to grieve a relationship, a person, friends. Yay. Yeah.
Anyone else who wants to share about their chapter or why they wrote in this book?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Anne.
It's Anne.
Hi.
Okay, everybody, my name is Anne White. This is my fourth time writing a chapter, and I keep learning and healing every time. And I'm the emotional one. Sorry.
No apologies.
I'll cry with you.
But
No.
my mom is there.
Oh, I'm doing the same thing.
What I've come to learn through this, because I didn't know what to write. But once I let the Holy Spirit, our universe, guide me, I realized that I was writing about my worth and my loss. I never thought that I was worthy to grieve, because there's always somebody else grieving something bigger. So I've learned that my loss is my loss, my grief is my grief. And yes, there's different type of griefs, but mine was worth it, and my pain was real. And I thought I overcame it, but it's unbelievable, the feelings, like when you revisit something that happened 24 years ago, that it's still raw, it's still there. And I got to honor that grief from a different perspective, from a grateful perspective. And I was grateful for it. So rereading my chapter, I realized the healing that I've done. And also the proud, it's like the support I have, the support's like, I realize that yes, we are one. And when I say support, it's the support from the soul that I lost, the support from people that have crossed over, an immediate family, and the role that I have. So I'm surrounded by friends that I learn from, and I'm learning my worth, saying I can create my own ripple also. So through these books, I'm very proud, doesn't show it probably, but I'm very proud that I have my mother, my niece, a sister-in-law that couldn't be with us today, and both my daughters expressing their feelings. And that's something, that's a big lesson for everybody. And I'm so proud that we have the confidence to express what we feel. You all, blessings. Thanks, Mom.
Oh, get me boss. It's Tokyo Venezuela.
Well, maybe after you finish crying.
Willow, do you want to share?
I'm just listening, just to start with, thank you.
Okay.
I'm
No
listening to
problem.
what everyone else has to say. I'm getting so much out of it.
Great. It's really great to have you again. So Willow's another one of our authors that is in the United States. I apologize. I don't know where, but I know that you're
Florida, the Sunshine State.
It's snowing here today, Willow. It's snowing here today. And then we also have Rose online as well, who is in California. So she's on the opposite side of the country.
California. Rose lives in California.
It's not sunny in Southern California, though, I have to tell you.
Oh, no.
No, it's not sunny. Well, it's snowing though. Well, I mean, it stopped now, but. Did you want to share it all, Rose?
Eventually, when it's my turn, sure.
You can, it's your turn now.
Nothing like putting me on the spot. Okay, let's see. Do I have a favorite speech? No. I have always believed that grief is never ending. You will always be grieving the loss of those most important to you in your life, but how you deal with that grief is what sets you apart. I lost two very key members of my house 9 years apart, my son and my husband. I grieve my son differently than I do my husband. And sometimes I wonder if he on the other side gets upset with me that I grieve harder for my son than I do for him. But then sometimes I grieve really hard for my dog. So there's so many different types of grief that you can deal with, but how you deal with them just determines how your life is going to go. And I remember when my son died, being in a support group, and this one woman was just, oh my God, every time she went to talk, it was 3 boxes of Kleenex in 2 hours. And when I found out her spouse died 2 years prior to my ever meeting her, I'm like, holy hell, how can you not get up out of bed in the morning? Why are you feeling so bad? I thought back to a 14-year-old friend of mine that was terminally ill who said, pain is optional, or pain is reality, suffering is optional. I'm not going to suffer through it. I just decided I don't want to suffer through grief. I will grieve in my way. I will journal, I will write, I will put all my feelings down on a piece of paper and get them out there, which is kind of what I did in this book. I've kind of done that in several books with his whole story, but you can't wallow in self-pity when you're grieving, because it's your grief. You have to deal with it the way you want, and you do what's best for you, basically. And that's kind of what I tried to imply in my story, that your grief is your own, and how you deal with it is how you deal with it. And nobody can tell you that you shouldn't feel better or feel bad, whatever, but you need to find an outlet to channel that grief so that you're not wallowing in self-pity and staying in bed all day. That's me.
Thank you. Rose is the person that we took her quote and put it on the back of the book. And it says, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And that's the one thing that I do talk about all the time about grief, is for every single one of us in this room or online or live on Facebook, we all grieve differently. And there's no right or wrong way to grieve. Everybody grieves the way they need to. And I always tell people, you're not doing it incorrectly, you're not doing it correctly. Every way is correctly for you. There's no right or wrong way. It's how you need to deal with it. It's your loss, it's your journey. You deal with it the way you need to, and you get through it how you need to. And for some people, it's different, and it may look different than we would do it. And that's okay. It's okay. Just as long as you're processing your grief, however you do it. Because if you don't process it and you pack it away in a cupboard, eventually that cupboard's going to burst open and bite you in the katoonie. And that grief is going to come after you. if you don't find a way to get through it and to journey through it. It doesn't go away. You create a new life with that grief part of your life. And with that being said, I'm going to call upon my sister to come up and talk to us about her chapter, because she had to learn how to create a new life and is still doing that. And is very brave to come here and speak to us, because she's not like me. She doesn't like doing that.
I'm gonna stand here, then I'm gonna stand here.
Yeah.
I wasn't like the other people I had $1 so, because I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but I'll try.
They might not be at this meeting.
Come over this
Oh,
side.
no.
The speaker's there.
Oh, my.
So I should,
You could go there. Yeah.
okay.
Pretend you're on TV. Maybe not.
Okay, I wrote down the reality of my grief. At first, I was like so numb that I didn't really feel the grief. And it was like a mixture of missing my husband and feeling sorry for myself because now I had nobody, which wasn't true because I had all kinds of support. And the first 6 months were like, it was like numb. You didn't feel stuff. You didn't remember stuff. Like even now, there's things that my daughters will say, well, you remember when we did this last year? And I'll say, no, I remember going there, but I don't remember anything that happened. It's gone. And now it's like 16 months later. And you still feel the grief, but at least now sometimes I have good days. Sometimes it's like you're at the ocean and that wave just knocked you over and you just keep going over and over and you can't stop and you can't do anything. Remember one day recently where I got up in the morning, my daughter slept and went to work. And it was like, it just hit me. And I could not stop crying. And I put on music and that didn't help. And then all of a sudden, I said, okay. And I sent my daughters each a message that said, thanks for your support. And I sent Maggie a message and said, thanks for your support. And then I sat there and I started thinking, okay, thank you, God, for this person that kept sending me messages. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. And I tell people now, on your good days, make a list of things that are good, that are helping you. Because when you get a bad day, like I read through that list, I went through that list, I wrote like half a page on my book. And all of a sudden it just left. That crying stopped and it was gone because I was focusing on the good things that I had. And I even said to my daughters at one point, we should be glad that your father died when he did, because he died of bowel cancer. And some people live for a long time with that and they're in major pain, but he didn't. The first day that he could not swallow his medication, he died that night. He could have been still alive and in major pain, but he's not. He's out of it. And so we started to focus on that idea that, you know, we can be happy that he didn't have to suffer like some of these other people that we've heard of that suffer for a long time. Some days I get up and just a normal day, but other days I just get up and I don't do hardly anything. I just do what because I'm retired, I can do that. But I just do, if I feel like laying back down, I lay back down. I just put music on, I just relax and try to get through that day until my daughters come home, because then you're doing stuff. But I started facilitating a grief share group, and that helped me so much because suddenly I was helping other people and I was focusing on them instead of on me. And it helped so much. So like Most of the time now, I feel like I can do this. I felt so many times that I couldn't do it, and I can do it. And if I can do it, then you can do it. Everybody can find strength to do it. And the same thing when I said I was coming down here. For me to drive all the way down here from up near Trenton or Belleville, if you know where that is, by myself, with just me and the dog in the car. Like most of the time, my husband was a driver. And I drove down here yesterday, and part of the time the snow was flying in my face and it was hitting the windshield and like, it just, but I kept saying, I can do this. And if we can just get that attitude, I can do it, I can get through this. Everybody in life experiences this at some point. And I heard somebody say the other day, I read it somewhere, that this man went through his wife's whole thing, never said anything hardly. And in the evening, he said to the kids, I want to go to the graveyard. They said, it's dark, it's night, we can't go there now. I need to go now. And he went and he stood at his wife's grave and he said, I'm so glad that you died before me, because you don't have to feel what I'm feeling now. And I love you so much that I'm glad. And I thought of that since, and it's so good that my husband didn't have to experience this. He got to go on without me, but I was left here. And I used to say that when people would say, oh, he's in a better place. And I'd say, yeah, but I'm still here. And that's the hard part. You have to learn to pick up and be somebody different. Like they always say that when you get married, the two people become one. So if you become one, when that person dies, what are you, a half? You're not one anymore. You've got to learn how to be one again. And it takes time and you got to do it on your own.
And you did it. Yeah.
He doesn't have to go through this.
Wow.
Would Leona or Natasha like to speak?
Is that me?
You're Leona. You're Leona.
Well, I'm just glad to be here actually and be part of you girls. And I just realized before they started, there were only ladies wrote into our book.
Only ladies this time.
I just realized that. That's great. That's nice. Of course, I haven't had a chance to read any of it except my own. But then I just can't wait for that. You know, as soon as we shut this off, I'm going to start reading if I can.
Yeah.
When
Don't
I
forget your Kleenex.
started, pardon?
Don't forget your Kleenex. You might need it.
When I read Forever Changed, I just didn't know how to interpret this part. And then Healing Through Grief says, how the heck am I going to get this out, whatever is in there? And every time comes a time to write a new chapter, I always say, no, I cannot. I don't know what to say. But then, of course, I believe in those spirits up there helping out. And then I said, okay, I'll try. And then it came to me that how I started my life with my husband was very hard, whatever happened. And I was glad he put it down. And as I did, I realized, wow, I must have been a strong woman going through all I did go through. And I was happy to do it. Like Anne says, Mom, thanks for going through what you did. And I was happy. But then you realize after Anne, I had 2 boys. And the boys, no problem, not at all. I didn't have to use this, whatever thing I had to wear all through my pregnancy for Anne. But then I was glad to do it. She was our first, and we were in love with her before she was born. So yes, this is my third chapter, and I'm happy to do it. I hope you girls keep on not saying what I'm doing every time, saying no, I cannot, but yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to add a little something to what Mom is explaining in her chapter. Can I explain them a bit, your chapter, where I'm concerned?
Yes, yes.
No? Okay, okay. So I'll here, I want to see faces. What, when, what? Oh. Reading my mom's chapter, I really understood, remember, I have different griefs. We have different griefs. Without giving too much details, spoiler alerts and all this. I am very, it's like, she takes her point of view on her wedding day. She felt she lived grief on her wedding day, the days prior to her wedding and wedding night. And also while she was pregnant for me, she had issues with her legs and walking and needed support. So she had to wear this heavy duty girdle type of apparatus to be able to support me. So it is the sacrifice. And then she got the joy of pregnancy, and when you're supposed to glow, and this is, you know, the most important time of your life, she didn't get that. So she grieved because she suffered to give me life. And then I appreciate that for sharing. So sorry, Mom, I was the cause for so much grief, but I was worth it, and thank you.
Thank you, daughter. Love you.
Susan, Diane, did you want to share anything about your chapter?
Sorry, I'm having some trouble hearing today on my system. I don't know. What would you like? What would you like me to address?
Well, I mean, you know, maybe why you chose to write in the book, or that sort of thing. I don't know. You've been with us on a few books. So.
Yeah, this is my fourth one. I guess one of the things I'm thinking, I haven't read all the stories yet. Like, no, who was the lady who was just speaking? I just asked Maggie that question in a direct message.
Oh, well, Anne was speaking.
And Maggie's not looking at her phone.
And yeah, and Fiona was, so is it the one that was with us in person? Or
Yes.
That's Anne Bonnet White.
Sorry, I'm trying to read the name you're saying. Could someone type it in the chat? I just was, after Jeanette spoke, then it's her daughter. That's why I was just curious. I was looking for her story in here because it was about her husband, right? Yeah. Probably the one thing that I'm looking at the book and thinking I'm definitely going to make sure that my sister-in-law has a copy of this. And that said, my story is about her husband. I mean, he's the core in it. But there are other, like my stories, many levels of loss, but losses that benefited other losses. So I don't know, again, if you haven't read it, then it doesn't make sense, but it's about my niece and a loss in her life that wasn't related to death, but was related to relationship. And it's about, you know, how that loss improved the experience of loss with her father. And then she lost her grandmother, but it actually was part of the reason that saved either her or her baby's life. So it's about how loss can be intertwined with the living and the beauty of life and the miracle of life, I guess. I mean, Bunny's naked because you've read my story, right? And
I read all of your stories.
Sorry?
I said I do the editing, so I read all of your stories multiple times.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not, I guess my own personal experiences, and I have certainly gone through loss with my brother and my parents and close friends and people on my husband's side of the family. And, but there's always something good that comes out of everything bad, right? And I guess I don't believe that death is necessary at the end of our journey. So I have to believe that there's something more. Even if it's from the perspective of the physicists in my family, that we are all energy and that energy persists in some form or another when we're gone. And the other thing I contributed was a poem, and the poem is actually about, we had up to 6 kitties in our life, but we only had one little boy, and it's really a poem I wrote the afternoon that he left us, because he passed away just after 12 noon, and on my desk right here beside me. And he just inspired such love, and I wanted to share that. When you were looking for something extra that was small, I thought that was something that would really, anyway. So I don't know, there's not really much else to say. I really appreciate the work you're all doing, and I find it fascinating. I have, I think I messaged you. I had a couple of people who were interested in this book before it even came out, because of the subject matter. And I think that for every one of these books, there's someone that reads one of those stories that says, thank you. They may read all the others and think, whatever, but as long as there's because everything is so different, and what resonates for you depends on what is top of the mind in that moment. So, and you might pick it up again. I mean, I have books on my shelf that you pick up years later, and all of a sudden you open to a page, and that page is the most important thing you could read that day. So they are very much a collection of important stories that will speak to someone, and that is what matters. So yeah.
Thank you.
I'm curious what the next book is about.
Well, we already talked about it on our podcast, but I don't think a lot of people caught it. So we already said on March 1st, our next book is Spiritual Encounters. So that is anything. So, and I did want to touch on that too. That is, the way we do, as people who have been authors in our books, is we give you a topic, but we don't tell you what to write about, right?
You've already got my spiritual encounter story.
Yeah, so
you read it.
And that could be, and we also say it could be nonfiction, fiction, it doesn't matter. You can make up a story. It could be about dreams. It could be like our spiritual encounter ones, I think is going to be interesting collection. I can't wait to read that one, because that is really open to anything. I have angel encounters, I have ghost encounters, I have spiritual, like there's so many different things. So I know that that's going to be something that we're pretty sure that we're going to have to cap, because like we had authors for this book. I think we're going to have to, our cap is 25. So per book. So we're thinking that one is going to reach our cap of the 25, and we may have to start turning people away and say, next time you'll have to.
Well, that would be wonderful if that was the case. But I was funny because you would have read, because I sent you another little tiny short piece, which is actually based on a spiritual encounter. I'll have to think about expanding that piece, because there's more that goes with that. There's more that goes with that. Anyway, so yeah. When is that one going to be done?
So that one, right now we have the deadline, but you guys all know this. Where our deadline is May 1st. But if you were to reach out to us, we would be hey, yeah, well, but we figured May 1st, because we want to we're trying to do a few, maybe 4 books this year instead of only 3.
Right.
We're trying to push it a little bit faster, and we will have our Christmas Miracle one in December.
One. Yeah.
Well, it might be November that we ask for it to come in, so then that way we can have it out by December. And another author messaged me and said she wants to join our spiritual encounters. That's how quickly it happened. So that's already number 5.
Next week, I will start sending out contracts to the people who have already messaged me about it. I've been too busy for this, but starting next week, I will be sending those out to everybody that has requested them. So those contracts will go out soon.
Maggie and I are loving that we are starting our busy season, where we actually had to make a combined calendar to put on it when both of us are busy, so we can figure out, and this is the first time that's happened, where we can figure out where each other is at every time. So because it is a lot of collaboration between the two of us. Now I do want to make sure we only have about 10 minutes left.
Can I just, what is it you're sending out?
The contracts for the spiritual encounters
for the next book.
So some people have asked to join up, but obviously, not only are we doing this, we're also still helping one of our solo authors. She's nearing the end of her book as well. So we were juggling 2 books at the same time. So plus everything else that Maggie is starting and what I'm starting in our personal businesses as well. So we're learning. I mean, we ask for gentle healing, and the universe is providing. That's for sure. It's giving us little bites at a time. You know, the way that you're supposed to eat a giant pie. Somebody told me. Is 1 bite at a time, right? So
I thought that was an elephant.
yeah, but she's vegetarian. She's vegetarian. She didn't want to eat elephant, so she said pie.
Sorry, I'm actually reading what you're saying because I'm not getting it clear. So do I need, Maggie, are you just sending those out, or do
If
you?
you would like, if you would
You
like,
tell me you want one.
yes.
If you'd like to send one to me, do send it, right? I'll have to talk to you a bit about timeline because April, to the end of
Yeah.
it. And I sent that story in, but I'd like to edit it or revise it, but anyway, okay. Anyway.
We do have a few more authors that are in person here that haven't been able to speak yet. You don't have to speak if you don't want to, but I would like you to at least come out and like introduce yourself or to make yourself known. So we have Doris. And this is Maggie and I's first time meeting Doris. So that is something that does happen. We don't know all of the authors.
Sorry, I'm going to turn my camera off and see if it's going to improve my sound, because I'd like to be able to hear what everyone's saying. So
Absolutely.
Hi, everybody. I'm Doris. I am new to this group, not to the community, but to the group. When I first heard about this book, oh my gosh, I'm going to tear up already. I was overjoyed. Thank you. Overjoyed because my story is so deep in my heart and my soul. And I'm so excited to share it all with you and you to be able to get something out of it and grow as well. I've grown more than I ever thought I would because of the grief I went through. But my story, my hope is that my story will also help you grow and be the best person that you can be, because that's exactly what I'm doing, and I'm so proud of
Okay.
Oh, I'm trying so hard.
Okay. Hello, I want to start off by saying how cool this is that I am also new to the group and new to the whole community about Above and Beyond. I am really glad that I followed up with this because I was hemming and hawing about it because I am not someone who talks very openly to just anybody. I keep a lot of things in, so the fact that it is out is something that's still crazy to me, even just holding the book physically. As everybody knows at this point, I am part of so many women that's a part of this book and family members, and I think it's really cool that even though 3 of them live 10 hours away, the fact that I can like connect with them through this is something that I think is awesome. And I wrote about living alongside a family member. So my grandmother who had dementia and passed of dementia, and it was something that, okay, I didn't think I was gonna cry.
It's okay. It's okay. You're allowed.
So I connect with specific people, and so I only let certain people in. And growing up and watching someone you love so much decline mentally and see someone you love not remember your name anymore, like it was hard. And like I know that where she is now is a lot better. She's not struggling and she's not in a place where she's so like she can't do anything she loves anymore. Like just walking in every Sunday visiting her, and she was sitting in front of a TV that wasn't even on because she didn't know that it was even on or not, or she didn't know who she was living with, and she didn't know her son's names. So just being able to witness someone who I was visiting, I knew of her, but she didn't know who I was, but I needed for myself to visit her to know that someone was there. I connected a lot with her through music. That is something that I have always been a part of. I have a tattooed lyric on my arm for her because the only way I would get to see her personality was if I started to sing. So I have You Are My Sunshine because that was the only song that she knew the words of and we connected to. And I remember I was asked by my uncle to sing at her funeral, but I couldn't do it. I obviously couldn't get through it, but we played a recording of us in her old age home singing together, and just that was enough for me to be like, okay,
I can hear the song now, how many years later, and not cry now. So I know I'm growing, and I know I'm able to listen to it and know that it's a good memory, even though I would do anything for her to meet people in my life now. But yeah, so it's just a story of seeing someone you love suddenly start mentally declining, and seeing your family grief and the caregivers grief and everybody that got to know her. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Anita. I wasn't going to talk, but these people are so brave that I would really feel like a jerk if I went home and didn't at least try. When Maggie and Bunny put out this offer for a book about grief, I knew right away I had to write about it. And I thought I was writing about something different because I was grieving something that I thought was a purpose. And I was wallowing in self-pity for quite some time and forgetting about what started a journey that I'm on. And so I started writing this with my first purpose, and quickly it evolved into gratitude for a grief that I didn't admit to. And in that, I was able to heal myself. When you'll see in my story, it shares about my husband and I grieving the same person, but differently. And where he ended up and where I ended up, and how we came back together in the end. Even reading this story to him was pretty powerful. And I definitely like to wrap things up with a nice bow. But I think that's because God always puts that bow there. It's just for us to reach out and grab it. It's always there. It's us in our ego mind that likes to wallow in stuff. God doesn't wallow in stuff. God has a new day, a new beginning every single day. And so that's my story. Just transference of things that hurt. And once it stops hurting, or you've wrapped your mind around another perspective, I think is a really key way to live your life. And I hope that I can continue trying to do that with whatever else grief is going to end up in my lap, because it's going to happen. We're going to have more grief. And being in a business that I am, we watch grief all the time. And sometimes just stand up strong for others and forget that we have our own that we need to process in whatever way it is. And it's in the smallest things when you realize that it can process. And I'm really grateful for this circle today and the people who've come, and Maggie and Bunny for offering this incredible opportunity for so many people to heal. Thank you. Thank you.
Does Natasha want to say anything?
Sure. So my name is Natasha. This is my 4th time writing in these amazing collaborative books. So when we first came out with, when you guys first came out with the subject for the next book, which was a few months ago, for grief, something inside of me just told me exactly what I needed to write. It was not easy, but I felt like it needed to go out there. My main purpose of writing what I wrote is to help others that have went through something so similar, if anything similar, know that they're not alone. Yeah, it was not easy writing. Of course, it was completely different sort of grief. People might not think it's grief, but to me, it is a big part of my grief in life. I grieved it for many years, and I still do. Some days are worse than others. I do lots of healing for myself now that I have grown from my past experience of my childhood. Yeah. Well, that's about it.
Yes, and I just wanted to say with all of the stories, for people who haven't read them all yet, the grief that was shared was not always just about a death of a family member or a pet. It was also about grieving relationships, watching people you love, decline, having a childhood, grieving what you should have had or, you know, could have had. Just all of the different types of grief. For my story, it was the first time, a little sample that I got to share about my late husband. And so that was what I wanted to share. And I know people like Susan Diane who pay attention to what we do. It was the authors were chosen by random computer wheel. So that's how come Maggie wound up first and I wound up second. That usually doesn't happen in our books. We usually put up bookends, but this time around we did a random wheel. And so that's how we all kind of placed in the book. And I loved to see how Anne and Leona were wanted like back and forth, and it was perfect. The way that everything worked out, it was just perfect, and like it always is. So that's I wanted to say that. And Maggie has some closing statements.
Again, everybody who came in person, thank you. To everybody who is there online, thank you. And I think it's a perfect way to close this meeting. Oh, sorry. Did you want to talk, Willow?
Yes, I just got back. I just got back online. My battery died and I was frantic trying to get back, but I could hear you all on my tablet. And I wrote because I wanted to help a friend of mine. And as I was helping her, I was able to access the grief that I had. I'm going to make this quick because I know it's the end of the meeting. And I was so distraught, not thinking I was going to miss it. But when I was trying to help her, and I found out how much it helped me. And because I was basically anesthetized when I lost my sister and my brother. And so I didn't feel anything really. And so that is what happens. The beautiful thing about this is we wind up helping each other. And thank you so much. I was able to hear the stories and it's just beautiful. So thank you. And have a great day.
So as we close this meeting today, I think it's important to remember that grief is the price that we pay for love. Without love, there is no grief. So I think it's quite fitting if we could all just use this chair in the center of our area. And if we could just all stand, and together, this chair is our chair of love. So whoever it might be that you could be grieving, a situation, whatever it is, put it on the chair. And let's together, as we close this meeting, just give it the time and the space that it needs. So for everyone today, as we leave, just know you are not alone. This room is full of love. Your ancestors, creator, your guides are all with you. And you are a catalyst of love. Be that loving support to the people that are around you. And know that whatever you're grieving, whenever you're grieving, because grief is part of life, we are all going to be touched by it because we're all in life. And know that you're not alone, and find people to be like-minded with. And for the people who are here, we're going to have a little coffee break, and anybody who wants to stay for our grief circle, we're going to do that too. For everybody online, thanks for coming. We're happy that you were here.
Thank you guys for coming.
And everybody have a fabulous day. And we have a few books on sale here, and the rest you can order